Hello, Taurus Risings. Welcome to your monthly zodiac reading for the month of May 2025. As always, we are going to pull an overall energy theme for the month. We will pull tarot for each week, clarify that with more tarot, as well as correlate those messages to the astrological transits and wrap it up with some additional oracle guidance. So let's see what you guys need to know for the month of May. Aries, act. Interesting. And the first thing I noticed is that both the image or the glyph that kind of represents Taurus energy, not necessarily the glyph, but the image that represents Taurus energy has horns. And here we've got Aries or the ram that also has horns, right? And so I don't know why that stood out to me. Maybe that'll explain itself in the reading. But ultimately, Aries represents the first house. It represents a sense of self, right? We want to see ourselves as courageous. We want to see ourselves as brave. We want to see ourselves in a position where we can actually take action. So let's see what the weeks have in store for you guys. Maybe it'll reveal why I was drawn to the horns. Let's see here in the first week, the Three of Wands. So the Three of Wands can kind of represent like when it comes to growth, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to building something, or even attraction, like when we started in a new relationship. But it ultimately represents like you've made a choice and you're now kind of waiting for those next steps to develop, right? You're kind of waiting for your ships to come in. You're waiting to see how things develop before you make your next move. Now, on the 4th, May 4th, Pluto is going to go retrograde within the sign of Aquarius. Anytime a planet goes retrograde, that energy is expressed inward versus being expressed outward. And Pluto, while it is considered a generational planet because it's an outer planet, it kind of makes changes very subtly. And with you guys, Aquarius sits in your 10th house. So this is your career house. This is your sense of like public image and even reputation, right? So there could have been transformative experiences that are ultimately beginning to occur when it comes to your house of career and maybe how people perceive you in that position, right? Things are slowly beginning to transform. Well, this next 5-month period is going to actually be a time for you to evaluate. You've clearly made a choice, and now you're just kind of waiting to see how that choice develops, and you're waiting to see where this grows, right? On the 10th, Mercury, the planet of thoughts, ideas, and communication, is moving into your sign. This is going to be in your first house. How you think about yourself, maybe how you communicate, is going to begin to shift focus. And maybe even any ideas that you have around where you want to go, right? How does your image, how does your public image represent or align with who you really are? Because the first house also governs things like how people perceive us, how the world sees us, right? So with you guys, it could be that there is clarity, even ideas or even communication around your sense of self, ideas about maybe who you want to be, who you want to develop into, or even just like it also ultimately this idea of how your sense of self or how people view you may not necessarily be in alignment with who it is that you're aspiring to be. Here in the second week, the star in reverse, so more Aquarius energy. The star in reverse represents like there's a disconnect, right? There's a need for hope. There's a need for healing. Maybe you feel like the path that you're on is not actually the path that's meant for you. This is when we're going to experience the full moon within the sign of Scorpio. Full moon's a buildup of energy, and the light of the moon begins to kind of trigger us emotionally. It's why we see people act out, or it's why we see certain events take place during full moons, because the energy is just building and building and building until it kind of peaks on the 12th. And the reason this energy kind of happens this way is because it's kind of revealing things that aren't working for us, right? It's going to reveal where you need healing. It's going to reveal where you feel disconnected from your path. And for you guys, Scorpio sits in your 7th house. This is your house of interpersonal relationships, long-term romantic partnerships, and even business contracts, right? People that we actually have to maybe even sign a piece of paper to confirm the deal between us, right? So when it comes to the 7th house, this could be bringing up, like I said, where you need more faith in contract, or not necessarily contracts, but if it comes to business and career, maybe you're struggling. Maybe you feel disconnected from your business partners. Maybe you feel disconnected from the people that you're closest to. You feel disconnected from your purpose and your path. Full moons in Scorpio tend to bring up, Scorpio is a very intense sign, and it tends to bring up a lot of intense energy. So this could be very revealing in regards to your personal relationships, right? Where there's a disconnect, maybe where healing needs to take place, right? Healing within the context of those romantic partnerships or those interpersonal relationships. But ultimately, the star in reverse is like there's healing that needs to happen, and there's this sense of disconnect, which is probably why there's healing that needs to happen. Here in the 3rd week, this is when Gemini season begins, we have the King of Cups in reverse. So the King of Cups in reverse can represent someone who is emotionally manipulative, or they struggle to maintain their own emotional state, to regulate their own emotions. And as a result, they have the tendency to use those emotions to kind of get what they want, whether that is intentionally manipulative or just unintentionally. The King of Cups, he's out of touch with his intuition. He struggles to regulate his emotions. He's kind of a drama king. You know what I mean? Everything is just a huge deal. So with this, it could be that there is someone in your life who is representing or who aligns with the King of Cups energy. Like I said, someone who uses their emotions to get what they want, someone who is a little bit of a drama king or drama queen, someone who just has emotional outbursts. Or this could even represent you. I was trying to decide where I wanted to segue. But this could ultimately represent you as well. We won't know until we see the rest of the cards. But this is when Gemini season begins. So when it comes to Gemini, Gemini sits in your 2nd house. This is the house that you traditionally rule. This is the house that governs things like material wealth, financial resources, or material resources, financial investments, and our sense of value, where we kind of how we place value on things, whether that's material, physical, emotional, how we place value on things, and even your sense of self-worth. Gemini sits in this 2nd house, so the next latter half of the month, your 2nd house is about to be lit up, because not only does Gemini season start, but here in the 2nd week, Mercury's moving into Gemini, as well as a Gemini new moon. So with this, Gemini season is beginning, and you guys are starting off Gemini season with the King of Cups in reverse. Here in the last week, the Empress. I love that. So 2 major arcana, both with feminine energy. So the Empress is someone who, she's very nurturing, she's very kind, she's ruled by Venus, your planetary ruler. She's very nurturing, she is very motherly. It's a very motherly type of energy. She represents fertility and growth. She represents birthing new cycles. And she ultimately just represents these feelings of love, receptivity, and acceptance. I apologize for that. Nothing like the pest control guy scaring the bejesus out of you and then me having to like clear all my stuff out. Anyway, back to the reading. This week, this is when we have Saturn, the planet of boundaries, restrictions, our humanity, karma, and time, moving into the sign of Aries. Saturn moving into Aries is a big deal because Saturn is such a influential planet, not only in our charts, but in our daily lives. Aries, it's moving into your 12th house. Or for you guys, Aries is sitting in your 12th house. This is the house of all things hidden. This has to do with like our mental health, addictions, secrets. They say hidden enemies, things like self-sabotage, the subconscious, spirituality and faith. All of the things that we essentially can't see reside kind of in the 12th house, right? So with you guys, the 12th house also governs endings and beginnings. And so this may be a really beautiful time with Saturn moving into Aries to become more disciplined when it comes to your mental health, maybe become more disciplined when it comes to your spiritual practices and your growth and maybe self-reflection and shadow work, right? These things take time. But again, the Empress is representing here that you're starting a new cycle. You're about to birth a brand new cycle for yourself, okay? This is also when Mercury, on the 26th, Mercury, again, the planet of thoughts, ideas, and communication and messages, moves into the sign of Gemini. So this is also your second house. So it could be that with Mercury and the new moon happening the very next day, occurring in your second house, you guys are birthing a new cycle, maybe around your sense of self-worth or even finances. So that's really beautiful. Let's see what this energy has to say. All right, Three of Wands, the Chariot. You're ready to go places. And for the most part, you feel very much in control about where you're going, right? The Chariot is about aligned movement, feeling in control with where you're going. And again, the Three of Wands is representing you've kind of made this choice about where you want to go with something, either creative endeavor, your career, but ultimately you've made this choice and now you're kind of just waiting to see how it develops. You're waiting to see how it grows. And the Chariot is also reinforcing that message that you're ready to go and you feel very much in control of how this is going to play out. And it could be a beautiful time to realign your head and your heart, right? Realign with your own personal values. Okay, we have the Two of Cups in reverse. Typically, this can represent that if there is a love partnership, it is not in alignment with us. Something is just not on the same page here. For you guys, Aquarius and Taurus don't really have a lot to do with romantic relationships, right? This is considered the soulmate card. It could, but where this energy is hitting you this week, it doesn't really seem to be having that kind of effect. So I do think this is more along the lines of your sense of self and how people are perceiving you, kind of making that choice to be more in alignment where you have previously been out of alignment, right? And you're taking this time to see how things develop. Here in the second week, this is the week of the full moon in Scorpio. Again, full moons are intense and ones in Scorpio are even more intense. The Fool, a brand new journey, a brand new journey, a brand new start. and the Devil in reverse. So you guys have got all major arcana here in this week. So this second week is going to be a big deal. The second week is going to be kind of a big monumental week for you guys. So here, it could be that there's a feeling of disconnect and maybe a feeling of hopelessness because you've had to make some sort of choice here. You've had to make a decision and now you're seeing how things play out. And that's kind of transferring over here into the second week. There's this need for hope. There's a need for healing to take place because you're about to start a brand new journey. You're about to embark on a brand new path, and it's requiring you to really release yourself from toxic habits, unhealthy relationships that maybe you're just like, I can't continue to make these choices and move into a direction that feels more in alignment. So again, if this does have to do with a relationship or business contracts, things like that, you've made a choice that was probably very challenging for you to make, most likely because you felt like it was not in alignment with you. It just was not in alignment with you, and ultimately there's healing that needs to occur because you're about to embark on this new path and ultimately kind of release yourself of these things that you feel like maybe had a little bit too much control over you. Here in, but this is a beautiful thing, by the way. Even though the star is in reverse, with the Fool and the Devil in reverse, that's actually a really lovely thing, right? This is an opportunity for you to take action and heal. This is an opportunity for you to realign yourself with who it is that you want to be and what it is that you actually want. Here, the King of Cups in reverse. Again, this could be somebody in your life, somebody who is using emotions to kind of get what they want. Three of Cups. So lean onto a support system, right? Lean into a support system. Those maybe friends, family, because there's going to be this feeling of I don't feel confident in my ability to overcome these obstacles. I don't feel confident in my ability maybe to follow through with the decision that I've made. I don't feel confident in my ability to overcome these challenges. When in reality you are, but that feeling, that narrative, that story that we can tell ourselves where we struggle with that confidence is kind of causing these emotions to overwhelm you. It's kind of causing things, maybe you're blowing things out of proportion because you're so overwhelmed. But this is where you need to lean into your support system here with the Three of Cups. Really leaning into the support system, okay? Here in the last week with the Empress, the Star direct. Maybe leaning into that support system really gives you the love and the care that you need to step into this new space, step into this new cycle where you can begin to birth this new cycle for yourself and then feel a little bit more connected to what it is that you're meant to do and begin to build something new. Build something new with people who care about you, maybe people, again, with that support system. But the Three of Pentacles is known as the architect of the tarot. And when we look at this, when we look at someone who's building something, these three people are working together towards a common theme. Now, there does not have to be three people involved. This could simply be you. Maybe you're looking to get advice from someone who is experienced, looking for someone to just be there with you to kind of help guide you. But ultimately, you've kind of made, like I said, you've made this choice and you're waiting to see how it develops. And now that you've stepped into this space of kind of freedom, you're stepping onto this new path, you're stepping into this new cycle, you're acting on the things that are actually meant for you, even when they're hard, because this does not feel easy, right? It feels very challenging in the fact that it feels disappointing is kind of what's coming to mind. But ultimately, here in the last week with this new moon in Gemini, you have an opportunity to begin to build again. But it may require you to take smaller steps, or maybe require you to start back down at the bottom. But ultimately, it does seem like it's the right path for you to take. Let's see. Here in this first week, it's time to release negativity. Here we've got full moon in Scorpio. So this week is kind of like a precursor. It's pre-gaming the actual week with the full moon in Scorpio. But ultimately, this is asking you, like I said, you've gone through the Two of Wands. You're now at the Three of Wands, waiting to see how this decision or this choice develops, waiting for these ships to come in. You're ready to take action on realigning with what's actually meant for you. But that's going to require you to release any sort of negativity, any sort of doubt that you may have, any sort of a lack of faith or feeling disconnected, feeling a disconnect that you have, because there's, again, a brand new path that's waiting for you. Luck is on your side, right? Because here with the Fool card in this deck, I love it because the Fool card is like just this open trust fall, which is kind of exactly what the Fool represents. It's this very open, faith-driven energy to kind of just do this trust fall into the arms of the universe and be like, all right, here we go. Here we go. And as a result of taking that trust fall, the devil in reverse appears being like, look, now you're releasing yourself of an unhealthy relationship. Now you're releasing yourself of an unhealthy partnership, business partner. Now you're releasing yourself of that negativity. You're releasing yourself of these addictions or these limiting beliefs. You're releasing this need for control. Okay? Expect powerful change. Expect very powerful change, which is probably why you're being guided to lean into that support system. Lean into a support system because the changes and shifts that you're going through, like I said, they feel very uncomfortable because they can very much feel like disappointment. Communication is key. Working together and communicating, right? If you are in a partnership where maybe a marriage where things do not feel in alignment and you want to work things out, you're like, I'm trying to make a choice where I want to continue to see how this grows. I'm ready to take this action. I want to heal this bond. I want to heal this relationship. I will advocate for this in any relationship. Communication, clear, direct, compassionate communication is always key. Always will be the key to building a steady and foundational relationship, okay? Which looks like exactly what this is. So whether or not this is a personal relationship or whether this is a business relationship, a coworker, a boss, like I said, a business contract, communication is key on how you're going to move forward. And you're both going to have to be on the same page. So I truly hope this helped. Again, this is a beautiful reading. It feels like a very transformative month for you guys. I hope you have an incredible, incredible May, and we will see you next time.